All right. Well, welcome everybody. I know it's been a little bit since we've gotten together. We're at that busy time of the year, but also that time of the year where, hey, Christmas is a week from today. New Year's is like 2 weeks from today. So 2026 is basically here. And I get it. You know, people are going to spend time with your families over the next couple of weeks. That's good. You absolutely should. You got to disconnect. But this meeting today is really to talk about what you want to accomplish in 2026. So, you know, we've been talking about it over the last several weeks. Basically, all of fourth quarter is really to set you up for what you're going to do in 2026. I know we've all been trying our best to lay the foundation. We've talked about thinking about what your goals are going to look like and projecting kind of what you have in the pipeline for next year to help you make an educated guess. Some of you have done this several times and are very familiar with this process. Some of you have maybe only done it once or twice. Some of you haven't done it maybe in a couple of years. Some of you have never done it. So we're going to jump into this and go through things. And first, we'll start kind of with a recap of what we accomplished in 2025, and then we'll move kind of into our goal setting. So, did everybody get the email that I sent yesterday with the worksheet for your goals and everything? Okay,
Yes.
fantastic. And we'll revisit, but hopefully everybody knows how to access, you know, what you've got closed for this year, what you've got pending for next year, although I've tried to pull that out to discuss later. And hopefully you have an idea of what you've got in your pipeline. You know, we always talk about one thing I think is always a smart thing to do is to keep a note somewhere with people that you expect to transact in the future, whether that's next month or next quarter or next year or even 2 or 3 years from now, people that you know that are going to move eventually. I talked to somebody yesterday, for an example. Went to school with his brother. He told me a month ago when we got lunch together, hey, my brother is looking at a job in Raleigh. He might be moving here. I saw that it was his birthday on Instagram or on LinkedIn. I wrote him. I said, hey, you know, if you end up moving here, let me know. I'd love to help you. He said, actually, we looked around and we decided we weren't ready to move. We're going to wait until 2028. Well, guess what? He's going on my list for 2028. So that's just the way it works. And hopefully, by putting him on the list for 2028, it will remind me, hey, don't forget about this guy, you know, because I'm going to want to sell houses and help people in 2028 too. I know all of our goal, because our bottom line is, hey, we need to get paid and pay the bills this month. We want to transact as soon as possible. You know, the whole thing about really being lasting in this business, and those of you who have done it can testify to, is that you get there by securing those deals down the line and building that pipeline. And then when the ones drop in your lap, hey, that's great. But hopefully you weren't counting on one to drop in your lap to pay the mortgage this month or things like that. And that's why we work so hard to really try our best to build our pipeline. So without any further ado, because that was a lot of ado, let's jump into our recap from last year. Anybody have anything to add before we get started? As always, it takes me a while to remember where the share button is, but that's okay. Also, I got to tell you, I've been without my desktop for like 2 months, and it's really, really nice to have it back. Okay, can everybody see this?
Yes.
All right, great. So just to kind of jump into it, yes, for those of you who have been around a while, this is the same PowerPoint um, format, but it does have new information, so try to stay awake, okay? Um, who knows our mission statement? I just gave you a preview.
Yeah.
Who knows our mission statement?
Oh God.
Tell me our mission statement. Come on.
Well, I know it's to treat people like family, basically. So
That's
that's
Give them the confidence and um, make sure they're comfortable and confident in the decisions that they make in buying or selling their home.
that's good. Anybody else want to add anything?
I think it said something about supporting the community, if I'm not mistaken, but
I
maybe
mean,
that
we
might be
love
the
the
vision.
community, but that's not necessarily in our mission statement. guidance and knowledge to comfortably and confidently make a decision. That's our goal.
Knowledge.
Dang, Janine.
Comfortably confident.
Janine should know it. My God. You know, our goal is not to tell somebody something. Our goal is to aid them in making an informed decision, you know, about a process that we're very familiar with and that, you know, they aren't very familiar with, even though they might think that they are, or people in their ear might think that they are, right? We do this all day, every day. We're helping multiple people, families do this a year. We're coming up on team-wise over 1,500 lifetime transactions and $500 million in sales volume next year. We should hit that probably first quarter of next year. That's a lot of people that we've helped. God bless April. She's managed almost every one of those transactions. But we don't get there by being salesy. We get there by building a relationship, providing value, helping people navigate the process, and really understanding all aspects of not only the process, but to the degree we can, what's going on with their house that they are interested in buying or selling. So they make a good decision about, well, how much due diligence am I going to put forward? How much am I willing to risk versus what's happening in the marketplace versus what we see on the disclosure? And then throughout the process versus what the inspection report has. How much are we going to offer based on what the comps are saying? What's going on in the marketplace? We're not guessing. We're providing value. We're providing info. We're providing guidance and knowledge, and then giving them the opportunity to understand it, make sure we disseminate it for them so they feel comfortable and confident about making a really big decision. I think sometimes we take for granted that, you know, you do this all the time. You're more focused on the process part. Don't forget, these people are making a several $100,000 decision that they might do once every 3, 5, 10 years. So there's a lot of gravity. There's a lot of weight. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. And I just want us to always remember that, you know, our goal should never be to treat two clients the same way. You shouldn't even treat your client the same way as you did the first time you helped them, right? Because it's a different circumstance now. It's a different market now. So always keep that in mind. Tell people what your mission is, what the point of what you're here to do is. Don't let them just assume that you're a door opener, right? Lead with that. Provide the value from the outset. Let them know what you're here to do. I always start with this because I think it's really important. And I want you guys to make sure that you are able to articulate it in some form or another and have your own mission statement to attach to it as well. You know, Janine might say, I love taking care of people. That's why I'm a nurse. And that's why I moved into real estate. It's just a different way of taking care of people. Brandon might say, I'm smarter than you and you don't know what the hell you're doing. And I'm going to show you how to do it so you get it right. You know, any of those things. You know, I'm having fun, but I'm just saying, add your own spin to it too. I don't want it just to be something you regurgitate to anyone. I want it to be a mindset that you approach every relationship with a client with. That's the whole point of it, right? Not just a saying on a wall that you can read to somebody.
You do too.
All right, let's keep it moving. So 2025 year in review. When I was looking at the numbers, I was pleasantly surprised where we're going to end up this year. And they might not be 100% accurate because we still got 2 weeks to go and some things can change. But let's look at where we've been since we really started back closing deals in 2018. So you can see kind of a slow and steady growth where we really peaked out during COVID, where a lot of people did, especially firms our size. And then we hit a little bit of a dip. But now look where we are. We're back up. And I'm missing some information there. Our sales are around the same this year, around 170, about the same. But look where our volume is. Look where our volume is. Almost the same amount of deals, about 20% more in volume this year. That's good. So the good thing about, you know, prices going up, Matt, what's happening is you make more per transaction. So maybe you don't have to do as many deals to make as much money as you did the year before. But still, I'm happy with where we are headed. You know, we peaked, we dropped a little bit like a lot of people did, because what happened after the peak? Then rates started to peak, right? And we got back up into 5, 6, 7%, right? Now, well, approaching 8. Now we're back in the mid to low sixes. Hopefully good things are going to happen next year. You know, politics aside, the current administration has a focus on lower rates. They talk about it all the time. Now, what the Fed does doesn't 100% impact what rates happen with mortgages. And a lot of time that's baked in anticipated rate cuts, right? So the Fed might drop rates, but mortgage rates don't go down any further because they've already anticipated it going down. So they drop in advance. That being said, I think it's a good thing that there's a focus on lower rates as far as helping with mortgage rates goes. So I think that's great. And I think, you know, in 8 years of business, that's a lot of people that we've helped. Whether you've been here 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 years, you've played a part in it. So thank you for being here and being part of the ride. And I'll get that other number in there, but it is about the same. Relatively speaking, not 100% accurate, but probably about 95% accurate. More buyer heavy than seller heavy this year. Probably not a big surprise. We've always been in the 70-30, 75-25 range. That's really always going to be the case unless you have a team of really predominantly majority experienced agents who have a lot more proclivity and past clients to do listings, because that's where the majority of listings come from our past clients. Speaking for myself right now, I'd be happy if my current amount of business was 75% buyers to sellers. I don't know about you guys. I'd welcome 3 buyers for every seller I was working with right now. But, you know, it is what it is. Obviously, I'm not going to turn down a realistic client. But I always like to look back at this. And historically speaking, this is tracking pretty well for where we've been for the last several years. Lead source all over the flipping place, as you will see. Really not surprising that our pay-per-click transactions are down given the volatility with our CRMs over the last year plus. So I'm hoping that we start to see some recovery there versus where we've been in the past. You guys are doing a great job with your sphere. You know, basically a third of business coming from your sphere. When you have experienced agents, you should do that. You shouldn't have to rely on internet leads. But obviously they're still there, and they are important for some folks. Another thing I want to point out is we've done really good with referrals. Not just referrals from companies that send referrals like Redfin, but other agents and past clients sending us referrals. And that's really important. And if you're in this business and you're not doing that, you need to make that a priority going forward, so you're not relying on internet leads. Work your sphere, work your past clients, work other agents you know in different areas to make sure that you're the one that they think of. You'd rather call 10 internet leads, you'd rather have somebody refer something to you. We all know the answer, but what are you doing to be the person that they think of calling? I just had 70 people in my house this weekend. You know, a good amount of them were past clients. A lot of them were, you know, longtime friends, neighbors, etc. Yeah, it was great. I had a good time, but you can bet your ass it was a business expense. When I went to Costco, I used my work card, not my personal card. Find a way to make sure you're doing that. And, you know, we've talked in the past couple of weeks about stewarding your past clients in your sphere and how to do that. I shared my calendar that I'm working on for 2026. I shared that there's no reason to recreate the wheel. I'm not afraid to copy what top producing agents like Brandon are doing it and make it my own. There's no reason you can't do the same thing or something similar. We're not playing to the same fan bases. We're not playing to the same sphere, right? April, I know, is out there all the time. She's working her sphere as hard as she can. It's great. I love to see it. And she, not only is she doing it, she's doing it very visibly by sharing about it, which I think is hugely important. So don't just do it. Make sure other people know you're doing it. right? You got to put yourself out there. Don't be a secret agent. And by doing that, these referrals, these spheres, those deals will pop in. One thing I also want to point out is why it's very important not to put too much of your eggs in one basket. You know, we have done really well for the agents on Redfin this year, but guess what? Where's Redfin now? So how are you going to backfill that if Redfin doesn't show up next year and you were counting on Redfin? We've seen that in the past with agents who got overly reliant on Zillow Flex leads. What happened when Flex went away? Well, the agents on the team that were really relying on that aren't on the team anymore because they couldn't convert anything else that wasn't ready. So you got to make sure that you're diversifying your approach to your business. And the way to do that is to, first of all, be mindful about it. Second of all, make a plan. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. Any comments, thoughts on any of this so far? Feel free to jump in. I love feedback, other people's insights. I want to make sure you're not just getting my perspective, but everybody has the chance to share theirs.
What the heck is Mellow Home?
I was going to ask the same thing.
It's just another referral.
Oh. I'm assuming that's for seller.
I think it was a buyer.
Oh, gotcha.
They often come with lenders attached to them.
Gotcha. I just never heard of it.
All right. Let's keep it moving then. Closed transactions by agent. This is based on what I'm seeing in the system right now and where we should end up. So, you know, this is a story of people at different places in their career based on where they're getting their leads from and where they are. As always, this should be a little bit all over the place. We're never going to be top heavy. Ideally, we're never going to be bottom heavy. There's always going to be people throughout because your business is not only a reflection of the effort you put in, it's also a reflection of the environment. It's also a reflection of what your goals are, you know, for the current year. Not everybody is super motivated every year. Some people have family things happening, health things happening, you know, other stuff happening. It happens. But it's good to know historically what you've done so you can kind of make adjustments on your activity.
Thank you for putting me in purple.
I didn't get to pick that. It just kind of happened.
Oh, look.
But it suits you very well. You give off a very regal air, Janine. So just to kind of give everybody a snapshot there. April, I had to put your last initial there. Otherwise, it turns you into a month on the Excel file.
I appreciate that.
We're not going to break, but any thoughts or anything before we really get into the next section? Any surprises or questions or anything?
No.
All right. Y'all came to listen today. All right. The whole thing about goal setting is this. This is where it needs to start and end. And this is where real estate agents get in their own damn way. You don't need to be anybody else but you. You don't need to look at what anybody else is doing and say, why are they doing that? Why can't I do that? You need to look at what they're doing to maybe figure out how they're doing it. But your competition is yourself, just like their competition is their self. Because you got to wake up every morning and get dressed and sit in front of your computer and get to work and treat it like a full-time job and not something like you rolled out of bed to do and hope that something falls in your lap today. It just is what it is. A lot of agents think they can just show up and wait for something to happen. And then they get frustrated when they don't. When in reality, 9 out of 10 of them aren't treating it like a full-time job. There's 40 hours in a week, minimum. I mean, when you had a full-time job before real estate, would you say you're working harder or less hard than you were then? And that's hypothetical. That's for you to ask and answer yourself. But you should think about it, right? And yes, some days you work really hard, but I wouldn't say just because you work really hard on a deal, you need to take the next 3 off or get complacent, because that's where those peaks and valleys happen. So just remember that. It's important that you only compare yourself to yourself. If you're interested in doing more business, look at what you did this year to get where you were and figure out how you can do more. I've always said I want my agents to do one of two things. Either do the same amount of business because they're happy with that amount, because it's good for their work-life balance, with less effort, or do more business with the same amount of effort because you get better at what you're doing. Notice nowhere in there that I say you need to work harder or that I want you to work harder. Either get better or figure out how to do it better. And that's where the whole looking in the mirror comes from, because only you know what you're doing all day, every day. And only you were there to listen to your phone calls and to record them and re-listen to them and say, hey, what can I do to get better? And only you know how much you're reaching out to your sphere and trying to be involved in handing your cards out when you go to your daughter's soccer game or your daughter's preschool or your son's doctor's appointment or whatever. Or the guy came and fixed our dishwasher yesterday. He said, man, when I have a house, I want a basketball court like that in my backyard. And I said, oh, well, do you have an agent? No. Well, brother, guess what? I'm your guy. Are you taking advantage of things like that? Every time you talk to somebody that you're paying something for, are you asking them for business back? The person that does your hair, that does your nails, that changes your oil, are you asking for business back? You're patronizing them. Don't sell yourself short by not asking for the business. The people who get the most business, you know why? People know what they do and they ask for the business. So make sure you're doing it. Does that mean you're going to get all the business? No. Does it mean your chances go up? Yeah, definitely. So just think about that. Be mindful. I mean, wear your name tag, wear your jacket, wear your hat. I talked to another agent the other day because I had my Oceanaire jacket on. He said, I'm thinking about making a move. I said, well, let's talk about the business. And, we chatted for 10 minutes. But he wouldn't have asked me if I didn't have my jacket on. I don't think I look like a real estate agent. What does a real estate agent look like? You know what I mean? Okay. I talked about this before. This slide, I don't think has changed in like 6 years. But it's really important. There's nothing on here that we shouldn't think about every single day in this business. Our job is to provide overwhelming value. Just going around the horn. Be a resource, not a sales pitch. I mean, we've talked about that ad nauseum. One thing I love Brandon talks about is commission breath. Man, people can smell it. It stinks. If you're acting like you got to have that deal, your clients can tell. You need to lead from their best interest, not yours. If you do that, you'll never need a deal. You'll always have a deal. But if you don't, people will tell. It'll turn people off. I tell people, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not in a hurry. I've got a house. I plan on doing this for a long time. I'm not retiring anytime soon. Your timeline is my timeline. They help me make sure that we're on the same page so I'm in the best position to help you. That's what this is all about. We're in a service industry, right? Zig, of course, who Brandon did not name his dog after, said, God rest in peace. You can have everything you want in life. You just help other people get what they want. That's what we do, folks. We help people achieve their goals, right? Stop selling, start helping. Be trustworthy. Be consistent. Relationships are leverage. If you give some value to someone else first, you have leverage. Provide value up front. People will be more inclined to want to work with you, right? Provide value first. Lead with value. How can I help? Tell me what's important to you. Seek to understand. And then shut up and listen. Not to reply, but to understand, right? Good things to keep in mind. Anybody have any other wise thoughts or sayings that they like to think about or remember? I know a lot of you like to listen to podcasts and read and things like that. Any other mantras or things stick out that you try to keep in mind in your day-to-day approach? And maybe not just to real estate, but just life in general.
I just think the golden rule is important. Treat people the way you want to be treated. That's that's a lot. That'll do a lot more for your business than I think you may think it will.
I think that's really good. I think it's important to be genuine. And I'm not saying anyone on this team is not genuine, but it's always funny to me, agents who have the agent voice, or they try to project something. Everybody's got to find their own way to do it. Just be genuine in your approach, and I think people can tell. Janine, Beach Mountain hoodie, I love it. Reframe your mindset. Okay. Challenges are opportunities. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to learn, to get better, to provide even more value. It's easy to have a problem and want to let it ruin your day. I say, and a lot of us, all of us to a degree, have had this experience. Man, that really sucked. But how did I use it to get better? I overcame it, and I showed my client that I could do it for them and get it taken care of. I learned something from it, so I was able to tell my client about it who could have gotten into a similar situation, that this is a potential thing that could happen in this scenario because it happened to another client of mine. So let's make sure that we're preparing for that in our approach to this. Maybe it's a septic issue or a permitting issue or an HOA issue, or a setback issue or a survey issue, any of those things. We've all had something that had happened to us the first time and we were blindsided by it because it had never come up before. We'd never experienced it before. And that happens all the time in this industry, right? But what did it do? It made us that much wiser and better the next time around, right? So while it's okay to be frustrated when hard things happen, I'm going to encourage you to reframe your approach to it and figure out a way how to make it a positive instead of a negative. This is one of the worst industries for letting negative things bring you down. You need to figure out how to flip the script on those frustrating, hard problems and figure out how to make those challenges and problems an opportunity to make you better, not only in the moment, but going forward. And if you exist in the problem instead of existing in the opportunity, you're really missing that opportunity to get better and to show what you're capable of doing. So I ask you to reframe yourself on that when it comes up going forward. It's really important, I think. And yes, I'm not saying it's not okay to be frustrated. I'm not saying it's not okay to take a moment and just sigh, because we all need to do that sometimes. But we've all heard the saying, something like, if you had $1 million and somebody stole 1,000, what's that equate to, like seconds or minutes in a day? Would you let your whole day be ruined for somebody stealing 5 minutes from you? There's a lot of other minutes in the day. So reframe it that way and figure out how you can make it work for you instead of against you. But it all starts between the ears, right? How you approach it, what you're going to do with it. All right. Always be closing. In this business, you should always be closing. And that doesn't necessarily mean sales. In fact, it only means sales at the end, right? This is a process. It's not a one-step thing. It's not an in and out. And this is a great scene, and I'm not going to play it for you guys. But if you've never watched it, go watch it. Because It's easy to get frustrated about bad phone numbers. It's easy to get upset about bad emails. It's easy to get upset about a lead won't call or text me back. You don't need to close all of them. Are you focused on the ones that you can get in touch with? Are you following up enough? When you actually talk to them, do you provide any value, or do you apologize for interrupting them and ask them if now is an okay time to talk? Do you get right to the point? Are you seeking to understand? Are you closing to get in front of them, or are you letting them tell you, I'm not ready to the spring, and you say, oh, okay, well, I'll call you in the spring? You're never going to see them. Learn to close for something every time. There are a lot of things you can close. What are they? An appointment. It doesn't have to be a showing. Get coffee, get in front of them so they see you as a person and not a phone number or a text message. A strategy session. It's never too early to provide value about the process, right? Working with real estate agents. Close that. Get it done. Okay, we're not going to see houses until the spring. Explain working with and make sure that's signed. Agency takes on a whole different thing now because it's required. It's required on this team. I swear to God, if you're still using showing agreements, I'll fight you in the street. Care more about yourself than using a fucking showing agreement. I'm serious. If you can't show up and prove that you can earn the business for one listing, your time in this industry is limited. I'm being serious about this. We've talked about this before. Do not use showing agreements. Sign it for one house if you have to. But if you can't get them to commit to you for the house that you're showing, might be time to think about something else. I'm just being honest with you. This is tough love. If you don't care enough about yourself to get somebody under agency for the house you took time to show, how are you going to look out for somebody else if you can't even look out for yourself? I'm serious. That's real talk.
And
It's
that's
kind of like when
honestly a good way.
when you go to a listing appointment and somebody's willing to say, oh, yeah, well, I'll do it for 1.5%, whatever it takes to get the business. Shit, if you're not going to fight for yourself, how much are you going to fight for me?
And say that to them.
Yeah. Oh, they offered to do it for 1.5%. Man, if they're not even going to fight for their self and their value, how much are they going to fight when it comes time to negotiate for your sales price or repairs or concessions? I mean, come on. Getting them to talk to a lender. Never too early to have that conversation. Yeah, they don't have to run credit now. They can do a soft pull. They can apply so they can give them an idea of, hell, your credit sucks. Yeah, you're not going to be ready to the spring because you missed 3 rent payments or you didn't pay your power bill last month. So now we got a minimum of 6 months before you can do anything. You know what really sucks? If you don't do that and then you finally follow up with them in the spring and then you figure out it's 6 months. Well, whose fault is that?
Agent.
It's your fault. You let it happen. Right? Close for making an offer. Hey, this one checks all the boxes. You said your lease ends this month. You got to be in somewhere. Are you ready to go? What are you weighing it against? Close on helping them achieve their goals, providing the value, seeing they're getting what they're asking for. Close for closing, right? This is not a selfish thing to say this. In case you didn't know, we don't get paid until they close. You might want to help people close. Unless you're just in this to pretend you're on Selling Sunset or something. And there ain't a whole lot of houses like Selling Sunset in Onslow County or even Wake County. Right? I don't even watch HTV, much less want to pretend that I'm in one of those shows. Closing for referrals after the fact. Hey, you got a whole shit ton of family and friends. Can I help them? You're bringing all your relatives from New England? Send them my way. Right? Oh, you're an HR manager at the firm you work for? What do I got to do to be your go-to for your new hires? Repeat business. Hey, if you're working with an investor, what's the next project? What's the next thing you're looking for? What's your time frame? How often do you want to do this? Every year? Every 6 months? Every 2 years? I got you. I'm here. Hey, you got any buddies that are investors? That repeat business is so huge. And that's how you get to a sustained and successful career. The people who are still here after years are doing these things. I want everybody to be here in several years. I'm telling you, the best way to do that and to be here is to do these things. And even those of us who have been doing it have to remember to do it, right? You got to show up. You got to be visible. You always got to close for the next step. I implore you to not wait for things to happen to you, but to make things happen for you. Nobody else is going to do it for you. That's the beauty and the curse of this business. But that's why the ceiling is so high in this business, because a lot of people can't do it. And again, where does it start? Between your ears. And when you look in that mirror every day. Brandon, what do you say about what do you have to do every day?
You gotta go out and kill something and drag it home to eat.
Or you don't eat.
Or you don't eat, yeah.
So if you're not eating the way you want to eat right now, you better get back in the woods. Right? All right, I hope that's helpful. A goal without a plan is just a dream. Dreaming is great, but dreaming doesn't help you accomplish anything. It's a good starting point. It helps you visualize, but the next step in actually accomplishing your goals is putting together a plan. That's the whole purpose of today, is to start with your plan for 2026 to get where you want to be, to give you some idea about the amount of effort that you're going to have to put in to achieve what you said that you want to achieve. One thing that's really important to understand here is these are not my goals for you. These are your goals for yourself. Make sure you understand the distinction there. This is not a top-down thing. Yes, do I have minimum expectations I want everybody to achieve? Of course. You got to hit minimums if you're going to do this full-time without having to do something on the side to make ends meet. I don't want anybody to have to do that doesn't want to do that. And I know that the best way to be successful in real estate is to only have to focus on real estate. But again, everybody has their own path, right? But these are your goals. These are not the goals I'm setting for you. So I want you to keep that in mind as we're going through this, okay? It's time to move from the dream phase to the planning phase, right? Dreams are great. Plans is what helps make things happen. So based on what I'm seeing in CSU, this is what I have pending to close in 2026. If I've missed anyone that has something that's supposed to close in 2026, I apologize. I pulled these last night. I might be off. It's really not important whether I have it right or not. It's whether you have it right for what you're doing to plan for your business. Okay. So what does it take? We've talked about this before. These are very general numbers, but I want you to use them as a baseline moving into that spreadsheet that we're going to get to in a few minutes. Okay. Based on historical team averages and other averages from other firms, these are conversion ratios. Okay. 10 calls to have a conversation. 10 conversations, and I mean actual conversations, not I'm not interested. 10 conversations to set an appointment. 2 appointments to an agency agreement. That's factoring in that not every appointment is a showing, right? You've got listing appointments where you're not necessarily signing an agreement then. You're doing strategy sessions or grabbing coffee where you're not necessarily getting an agency agreement there. Ideally, that ratio is more like 1.5 or 1.25 to 1. But for planning purposes, it's kind of like I'd rather set the closing costs higher than they actually are and then be pleasantly surprised at the end when we get there. Okay. But when it comes to actual agency agreements, that needs to be really dialed into how many closings you're having. So about 1.1 to 1 closing. Your work plan should be based on the data. We have the data. Now break it down by year, month, week, day to stay focused on the amount of activity you need to complete your goals. And of course, when you look at this at the year level, that seems like a lot of work, right? A lot of work. 5,200 dials, 520 conversations, 52 new appointments, 26 agency agreements, 24 closings. But if I told you that if all you had to do was get to 5,200 dials, that you could really increase your chance of 24 closings, would you pick up the phone and start dialing? And yeah, that seems like a lot, but this is 20 dials a day. How many hours did we say there are in a work week? It's okay to say it.
40.
Right. How many is that a day?
8, right? 8 by 5, 8 divided by 5.
Don't second guess yourself. Those
I haven't worked 40.
communication
I haven't worked 40 hours a week in about 7 years, so my scale is off.
What is 20 calls over 8 hours?
Yeah, well, a couple hours, less than 2, I'd say.
2.5.
2.5?
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. Who can raise their hand and say they're prospecting at a rate of 2.5 calls an hour, 40 hours a week on average?
Not me.
Not one person, I bet. Brandon, are you above it?
I better be. I'm definitely above that. Yes. And if you think you're far off from it, I would challenge you to reconsider. I think a lot of times people don't give themselves credit for a lot of the prospecting that you do. It doesn't have to, in my opinion, Doug may feel different on this, but it doesn't have to be a bold trail lead that you called for it to count as a prospecting call, right? If you run into the grocery store, if you're at the grocery store and you run into someone that you went to high school with and you're talking about the fact that you're in the real estate business, if you have a conversation at the pediatrician's office with someone about the economy and you talk about like that's prospecting, that all of that stuff counts. Make sure you're giving yourself credit for that.
I don't disagree with you at all. That is completely prospecting. What I would say the best way to give yourself credit for it is to track it and to use the tools that you have to track it. And it's not hard to track it. So make sure that you are, so you have a clear idea when you do this again next year, that you can look back at your activity and see what you did. Because if you're not tracking it, then you really don't have a good idea of the amount of effort that you put in. That's why we have these tools to track that stuff. So you can look back and say, you know what, I busted my ass on the phones, but guess what it did for me? And yeah, you talk to them in person, track it as a phone call. It doesn't matter. The point is you're tracking the interaction so you can go back and look. You know what I mean? So make sure that you're doing that. But I always like to break this down further because it seems like so much work on a yearly level. Let's look at it at the month level. Okay, now we're at 430 dials, 45 conversations. How many conversations is that a day? Roughly 1.5 over a 30-day month. 1.5 conversations. You're having 1.5 conversations a day. 4.5 new appointments. That's not even, that's a little over 1 a week. You're having 1 new appointment a week. 40 hours is a lot of work to put in, not to average 1 appointment. And look, I don't take for granted that all 40 hours isn't prospecting, right? But you don't need 40 hours to make 20 calls. We just talked about that. Or you don't need 8 hours to make 20 calls. You should be able to do that in an hour or 2. And that still leaves you 6 or 7 hours. What does that break down to a month, though? 2 closings a month. Would anybody here be happy with 2 closings a month?
Yes.
People would be, right? A lot of people would be. Now, yeah, we've got people doing more than that. Maybe they wouldn't be super happy, but if you could guarantee that going into next year, it's not a bad starting point, right? Let's keep breaking it down, though. A week, 100 dials. Now it sounded like less effort, isn't it? 12 conversations, a half a closing a week. How do you have half a closing? A day, every day, 20 dials, 0.1 closing a day. That's how you get to 2 closings a month. Half a closing every week. It's really important to look at it this way because it can seem overwhelming when you look at it as a yearly approach. But the fact of the matter is, the work is done in the day-to-day. And the people who achieve the most are consistent day in and day out, which makes them consistent week in and week out, month in and month out, year in and year out. Make sense?
Yes.
Approach it from the day to day. Don't be overwhelmed by how much work it is in a year. Be underwhelmed by how little work it is day to day. And heck, what if I doubled my effort or increased it by 50%? Like, and obviously these are all averages, and the law of averages, they're averages. They don't apply directly to everyone. But theoretically speaking, you know, if my 20 dials a day might get me to 24 closings, would it be worth making 10 more calls a day to get to 36 closings? Hell yes, it would be. To increase my business by 50% because I made 10 more phone calls a day. That's the way I want you to look at this. I hope that's helpful. Anybody else have anything to add and how they approach it? And obviously, again, we're all at different stages in our business. Some folks are on team leads, some people aren't. But obviously, Brandon probably has the least reason to prospect. He has the least amount of team leads coming in. And look how many he produced this year. And who does it sound like prospects most on the team?
Well, let me touch base on that just briefly. And Janine, I think it would be good for you to chime in too. Um, Guys, just be real with you. It's really fucking hard to not be on leads and generate this amount of business. Like you have no choice. Your back is against the wall. You're totally responsible for everything. I can't text Doug and say, "Hey, other people are closing deals from leads. I'm not getting them. I'm not giving him a cut of my commission because I'm not on team lead." So it is a constant, nonstop effort. You have to be touching base with people all the time. And my goal last year was 30. I'm not going to hit my goal. That graphic you put up earlier, Doug, 29. I'm actually going to have 28 closings. I think I'm getting credit in that for a referral that I sent somebody or I received. But so I'm not going to hit my goal from 2025. My goal was 30. I'm going to close with 28. Now, that's not the end of the world because I have a lot of family stuff going on that I don't need to get into here that is very time consuming. But, um, you know, it takes so much effort, even when you're 7 to 8 years into your business to the way I explain it to Amber is when I first got started, I was flying like a prop plane, right? That you take on like a sightseeing tour. And then the next thing you know, you're flying a Southwest plane. And then the next thing you know, you're on like a cross country flight type plane, like a 747. And then the next thing you know is like you have a jet bus in the air. And it takes an insane amount of effort to keep the jet bus in the air, right? I can see Janine's head nodding. She knows exactly what I'm talking about. what makes it possible is putting in the effort on the front end. If I hadn't have done the prospecting on the front end of the career, these people I wouldn't be able to stay in touch with them now. I would have lost the relationship. So just keep thinking that. I know things have been difficult. It's been an interest rate environment. Total number of closings have been down this year compared to last year. So, if you're not where you want to be, but you made progress this year, give yourself some credit and some grace for the fact that this has been a very difficult market and you're still alive and you're still putting food on the table. If I just implement a couple of changes now that it looks like rates are probably going to swing our way this year and energy prices are coming down, if I really go all in this year and commit to doing it when I don't feel like doing it, what is this going to look like at the end of 2026 when we're having this meeting for 2027? You totally have the ability to change. I'm not saying it's easy, man. Nobody wants to work 70 hours a week. Um, but there's absolutely a correlation between the amount of value you provide and the income that you generate, and that all comes through the effort that you put in. So just try to fight through it and know that if you do the work now, it definitely pays off and makes things easier when you're a little bit longer in the tooth in your business. But the reality is this is not an easy business. It gets easier to an extent, but in many ways, you have to continue to get after it every single day.
I think that, I mean, this is the least amount of units I've ever closed in 6 years. And I'm like, holy shit, did I even try? But income wise, it's the most successful I've ever been. And so what Doug was saying, work smarter, not harder, 100% of my business obviously is past client referral. Did I want to do more? Yeah. Did I have a couple fall through that I couldn't get back on a contract to close at the end of the year that put me behind the curve a little bit? Yeah. A lot of the things that we can't control, but could I have put in more time and more calls and all of that? Of course, it is what you make it. But I'll tell you, my husband was furloughed this year. This is the first time in 20 years that the mortgage came out of my paycheck, so thank God for that. Obviously it's fine now, but you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to come. And so you want to get to a place in your business where you can have the runway good to go and slack off a little bit if you need to. I got 2 years, so I'm an empty nester, and sure shit ain't going to miss a single minute of that, and my business may suffer a little bit because of that, but you got to just keep on trucking and keep on doing it. It's so easy to say the market, and it is. For a large majority of what we do is dictated by the market. But you just got to believe in yourself. And one of the things that even in nursing, like, it was really challenging for me is to just continue to keep that confidence. Like, I know I'm a good agent, but how do I be a better agent? There's always an opportunity to get better. And like, I just want to make sure that I'm doing the best that I can do for me and my family, but it's just, shit ain't easy. And sometimes the business falls in your lap and you get lucky, but you can't guarantee that. I mean, the people that I just got under contract that are closing next month, I connected with her in 2023, and you just gotta stay the course, man, and trust the process, and it'll work. You're gonna get out what you put in.
I think one last thing I'll add, and then I'll shut up because I don't want to come across as preachy, but I try to share things that help motivate me. I think we're all motivated by different reasons. The reasons that I were motivated for my business are very much different now than they were 2 years ago before I became a parent. I think that's probably common with a lot of people, but not to get into the weeds here, but just to share a little bit. Sophie has had over 100 doctor appointments this year. Including therapy and pediatrician, cardiologist, stuff like that. I counted them out the other day. It's about 108. There are probably people that I'm friends with that have children that are 10 years old or so that have not had that many medical appointments in their life. My motivation is I want to be able to pay cash for the best health care that she needs when she needs it. Why am I sharing this story? whatever you need to do to figure out yourself to motivate you to, my teammate is having an open house. Nobody ever goes to open houses. It's a waste of my time on the Saturday or Sunday. If your business is not where it was, do the fucking open house. Figure out whatever you need to do to motivate you to do the things that you know that you need to do that you're not doing. I don't care what it is. I want a new car. I have to buy a car for my kid. I want to go on this trip. I want to go to the World Series. I want to eat better. I want to get a gym for my whatever. I don't care what it is. You have got, no one can do this for you. Figure out some sort of financial motivator to get you where you want to be. And know that if you do the things that you don't want to do and you're uncomfortable, it may not work out. Like I just told you, I'm not going to hit my goal this year, but I'm a lot closer to it. And I'm okay with that. So, if your business improves by 30% from next year compared to this year, run the numbers on what your average transactions are and then add 30% to that. That can be a lifestyle change. So find something in your life that you need to do to motivate you to do the things that you know that you should be doing that you've been putting off for whatever reason, and use that to hit it like a ton of bricks. And I'll get off my soapbox now.
I mean, the guys that are doing the business like you guys are doing are the people that should be on the soapbox. You guys are something worth emulating, right? And it's great. And we're all fortunate to have people at different parts or in different stages of their career to share how they've gotten there, right? Because it's not just some coach saying, hey, go do it. ABC, these are the steps. It's people that have done ABC, done the steps, and figured it out. So there's a difference there. And it all starts with your mindset and your own self and your goals. Just to go back to the very top of this thing, control the controllable. We've talked about this before. What can you control? You can control your attitude. Are you going to be positive or negative? You control your activity. Are you going to get up and work until you make something happen? Or are you going to wait until something happens to you? Your schedule. Are you going to be regimented and rigid and plan your daily, day to day, your week to week, so you know you're accomplishing the things you said you want to accomplish in the time frame that you want to? Or are you just going to wake up and roll out and just wait and see what happens? And yeah, I got a lead that came in last night. I'll call them this afternoon. I'll set up that search tomorrow. I got this text. They say this lead is ready to talk to. I'll call them this week. Are you going to act with some urgency? Like everything in your life depends on what you get up and do. So thank you both for sharing that. Anybody else can speak up at any time, of course. The whole point is that we share our experiences and what works for everybody. And to Brandon's point, this isn't a preachy soapbox thing. This is hey, we want to see everybody do really well. This is what we have seen work for other people. At the very minimum, make sure you're doing this. At the very minimum, make sure you're doing this.
I have to step off for 1 second. I'll be right back. I'm sorry.
No problem. All right. We're going to go to Sisu now and set up our goals in Sisu for the year. Okay. So I want you to go to your account. It should be the top right-hand corner in your Sisu. And if you open that menu, you should get a drop down for goals for the goal calculator. And then you'll want to select that and make sure that you switch it to 2026. It might not look exactly like this screen. Give me just a moment and I'll pull mine up.
Click on edit with goal calculator. Is that right?
Yep. Goal calculator. This should be the screen that you want to get to first. And then you're going to want to click on, make sure it's 2026. It might not look like this for you guys because it might just have your own, but make sure that you're in 2026 and you can go to the edit with goal calculator. And then hopefully it loads. Anybody not there yet?
Mine won't load.
Okay, hopefully give it a second. If it won't, you might need to log out of Sisu, clear your cookies, and get back in. I had that issue yesterday. All right, so once you get there, there are really two ways to set your goals for the year. Okay. Obviously, you can just plug them in here and you can base it on, if you have this reference year here, for those of you that have data, if you have reference year here, it will pull in kind of these averages. Okay. Or what you can do, and this is why I provided the spreadsheet, you can go to the Excel file that I sent yesterday, and you can just use historical team averages. Okay. And Excel files are super fun. And I know that those of you who have seen this before are very excited about seeing this document again. I know that you've been waiting all year long for the chance to open it back up and jump back in there. Ashley and Janine, don't jump through the screens too quick, okay? Although I have simplified it a little bit this year. I've taken some stuff out, so we're really focused on more high-level activities. But if you look, I want you to look at a couple of things. Open that document. Go ahead and type your name in here and replace it and save it to your desktop, because after you fill it out, I want you to send it to me, okay? And then basically we're going to start plugging in numbers here.
Okay.
And these numbers are more or less based on what I sent you, what we just talked about in that spreadsheet or in that last slide on the PowerPoint, okay? So just kind of going through here. This is the team average column right here for each of these activities, okay? This is for a goal of 24. So I'm going to work this as if my goal is 24 for 2026. Say that 5 times fast. 24 for 26. 7. Sorry.
You got kids.
All right. So where the red X is where you would type in your stat. Okay. For each of these. So, and this is based on 52 weeks of prospecting, like I showed you in the sheet. So starting down here at the bottom, okay, 10, our average is 10 dials per conversation. If you think that's what your average is, type in 10 there. If you're really good at having conversations, because maybe you're prospecting to your past clients, maybe it's only 5 per conversation, because people are answering the phone. If you're only on team leads and you're not sourcing any other leads on your own and the conversion rates are lower and you're having a harder time getting in touch with people, maybe it takes you 20 dials. You can go back and look at your stats in CSU if you have been recording them, but that's the whole point with accurately recording them. If you don't accurately record them, you can't accurately put them in here. And that's why we have the team averages. Okay. So I'm going to stick with 10. And like we talked about, 10 conversations to set a new appointment. Okay. Maybe you do it in less. Maybe you do it in more. Type in what you do. I'm going to go with the team averages. Hopefully you're working along as we're doing this. If anybody gets held up, let me know. Now, appointments for agency agreement. Again, like we talked about. 2, because not every appointment is a showing where you need an agreement for. So maybe that's really a little high. Maybe it's 1.5. Or maybe you go on a lot of listing agreements that you don't get. So it's 3. I don't know. But just, kind of keeping something in mind there, right? And then agency agreements per closing. You want that number to be pretty dialed in, right? Pretty dialed in. I think we put 1.1. Okay. So if you calculate that, you see what that spits out for me over here? You see what this spits out? Now, based on that, for a goal of 24, that's telling me how many dials I should make, how many conversations I should have, how many new appointments I need to set, how many agency agreements I need to sign to get this goal of 24 closings. On average, you might need less activity, you might need more activity. This is to kind of give you a baseline of activity, right? And like, say I need 20 conversations before a new appointment because I need to work on converting. Well, look how that changes things. Well, now I got to make a lot more dials and have a lot more conversations. So if that's what your numbers are, what should you work on? Scripting, converting, providing more value on the phone, connecting. See what I mean?
Is it okay if I change the weeks of prospecting? Because I think honestly, with holidays and stuff, it's you add in and what you got going. It's like more like 50 to give an accurate.
If you want to do that, you can. I would just say, remember how many hours a week it takes to make the amount of calls we were talking about.
True.
I mean, on a holiday week, you could make all the calls in one day.
True that.
And honestly, that's a low amount for a week.
Yeah.
So, again, you can personalize it however you want to, right?
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking it push you to do more a week rather than so you come out. If you did actually get to do it in those weeks, like you said, then you'd be a little over.
Yeah. I would just keep it like that for now. But
okay.
Here's what really makes a difference, though. Say you want to increase your business by 50%. Well, change this to 36. Now look. So type in your averages here and then type in what your goal for the year is as far as closings, right? Now, the other thing you want to do is put in your average sale price. Okay?
That's back over here.
Coast and Triangle. These are our team averages for this past year. Now you can go look at your own.
Can we use okay. I was just going to say that. Yeah, I've got my own.
Again, this is just for people who don't have a huge data subset, right? So you can go and do that. So say, for instance, maybe I go with 400,000 for mine.
Oh, just killed it.
And then that should give me, at 2.4%, that would be my GCI. Based on a 50-50 split. Okay. Now, if you want to do the math up here, can everybody see the formula up here on this line?
Yes.
All right. You see how it's divided by 2? That means the split's 50-50.
Yeah.
You want to change that denominator based on your average split.
Hmm.
So maybe your average split is 60. So do the math. Maybe your average split is 90. Do the math. You go in there and that will impact this number. Okay. Again, this is just for averages. Make sense? Any questions?
Yeah, I'm just I struggle with Excel. Everything I do
Excel's
is
great. Excel
not
is great,
working.
right? No, I agree. This causes consternation every year, but it really will spit out the numbers for you
How did that?
if you plug them in.
I tried to, but it's not. I'm just.
We can also meet offline about this individually and recap when we do our next one-on-ones for everybody. And if we don't have regular one-on-ones, we can still do that too if you want help with this. Other things I want to point out, based on team averages, this is the percent of closings in the first quarter for the year. Obviously, second quarter, third quarter are higher. Fourth quarter is traditionally the least. So what does that do? That shows you for a goal of 24, well, my goal in the first quarter is a little over 5. My goal in the second quarter is a little over 8. My goal in the third quarter is around 6. My goal in the fourth quarter is around 4. So now we start to be able to break it down on how much I have to do every quarter. And then if you extrapolate it down here at the bottom on a monthly, breaking these quarters up by month, now you see I got to do a little under 2 the first 3 months to hit that goal. And then a little under 3 the next 3 months for quarter 2 to hit that goal. And you see how that adds up to 24. Now, you can go in there and edit these and make them whole numbers. Maybe you already know you've got 2 closings in January and 1 in February. You can go ahead and plug that in. And then you can track your actual relative to this throughout the year and see where you end up. And then at the end of the year, you can say, well, damn, I really crushed first quarter or second quarter. See what I mean? You can also do your stretch and dream goals. All right, I want 24. That's my minimum, but maybe my stretch is 30. Maybe my dream is 36. So you can go through and plug in the numbers here to see what that breaks down on a monthly, quarterly basis. Any questions about that?
No.
Now what you need to do once you plug all that in and you've got these numbers, just plug it in here. So $400,000, average GCI 24. Closing your business that are buyers to sellers, you can go in and plug that in. Appointment set to appointment met. That's based on these numbers here, right? Conversation to appointment set. Well, that would be like 10%, right? Conversations per appointment. Some of these you can spitball. You're not going to set every appointment. Appointment met to appointment signed. If we did 2 for every one, right? Signed under contract. These aren't on the sheet. These are things you can spitball. Under contract or closed, 95. You might have one that falls through. Percentage of your business that are buyers. Well, we just saw for our team that was 75. My splits are different because I don't really get paid that way. I don't get paid a commission. So all my split is basically 0, but you can go in there and plug in your own stuff. But if I did it this way, Then this spits out your goal. You see how it projects all this stuff into here? Then you've got this really cool slider. All right, maybe that's my goal, but maybe I really want to increase it 20%. You see how it changes that? So you can play with that and get creative. But I encourage you to do it, because then it's going to put it in Sisu, and then you can track your progress with the little circles on the dashboard. So when you're recording your calls and you're recording your appointments met, if you record them the correct way and they show up in the system, it will reflect in Sisu, and then you can track, well, hey, I need X amount of appointments this month. Where am I so far based on what I've tracked? Or I need so many calls this month. This is how many I've tracked. Or I've had this many conversations this month. This is how many I need. I better keep dialing until I have that many more conversations and set that many more appointments if I want to stay on pace. Does that make sense?
Going.
Any questions?
No.
And then you save them. And then it should show up in there for you. And then you can see mine. So based on what I put in, I need to average about $850,000 in contracts a month. Basically a buyer and a half and one seller, or a half a seller per month.
Where do you see this?
What? 3 buyers and 2 sellers every 2 months, or 3 buyers and 1 seller every 2 months. What questions do you guys have? Because I can't see half of you, and the other half of you aren't making a lot of eye contact.
Where did you see that last figure you mentioned? How much you're supposed to be doing a month?
It's right here. Under contract volume.
I don't see that.
Have you saved your goals after you plugged them all in?
You have to click Control Save or something?
No, there's a save button once you enter all those fields on the calculator. Once you fill it in, right here will be save, and then it'll populate it back on this page.
No, I didn't see that.
Okay. Well, once you finish that, it'll show up there.
No, my screen was like, didn't fit that all in, and I may have missed it.
Okay, well, it's fine. You can just go back to edit.
You think I have more skills with Excel than I actually do?
This isn't even Excel. This is in CC.
What? That's
Doug,
Excel.
when you were doing all this, you have it on Excel. We can't see your CISO.
Oh, thank you for telling me.
Yeah.
Yeah, about to
I would
say we're looking
struggle
at your
with all
Excel the whole time. Maybe that's the problem.
That's an easy fix.
Yeah, I know how to do it in CSU. I've done that before.
On the goal screen, edit with goal calculator. Then you can go in and plug everything in here.
Oh, I was trying to make it happen on the Excel.
Well, I mean, you want to do that to get your numbers, but then you put it into CSU.
I'm retarded when it comes to Excel.
That's okay. I'll fill out mine real quick just so you can see, and then I'll walk you all through it.
Basically, you're putting your stuff into Excel to generate your benchmark numbers. Then you put those benchmark numbers into Sisu and save them as goals so that you can track your progress towards the goal. So you can't do one without the other. You have to do the Excel file to do the Sisu stuff.
Right. Well, might not happen then.
So I took the numbers from the Excel file, just using basically the averages that we talked about. So basically just putting that green number over the red X okay, putting the same number there, right? And then I brought it over to here using my average price point. So my average price point is $400,000. That would give me my goal at 50%.
Mm-hmm.
That
Yeah, I
number
see
that I
that.
plugged in that lower right hand corner of the blue box, right? Average GCI 2.4. 75% of my business are buyers, like we talked about before. Maybe yours are higher. Contract to closed, okay, maybe one falls through, something like that. Signed to under contract, yeah. Hopefully, most people you get under agency end up contracting. Met to signed, that was that 2-to-1 we talked about, which is probably a little high, but for argument's sake. Appointment set to appointment met, that's not something we track in that Excel, but that's kind of spitballing. Hopefully, you're meeting 9 out of 10 people that you set an appointment with. You can adjust it on your own. Conversations to appointment set, that came directly from the sheet, 10 calls for one appointment or 10 conversations for one appointment, right? And then when you do that, it spits all this stuff over here on the right-hand side. And it shows you what your monthly income would be. You get the yearly income, what your closed income would be monthly for the yearly income, closed, under contract volume, closed, et cetera, all the way down. Shows you the buyers you need a month, sellers you need a month, what you need to get under contract, how many conversations you need to have, right? And then when you save that, you can also use this slider to, hey, I want to increase my business 25% from that. What would that look like? Okay, you see it changed all those numbers. Or you just move it back to 0. You save that, and then it will show up here on that goal screen. And it breaks it down month by month. Volume, under contract volume, listings closed, buyers closed, all the way down. And then you can go in and edit it if you want, because this is averaging it out over the year, okay? This isn't doing the quarterly breakdown like we did before. Now, like I said, you can go in and edit these if you want to, but I think it's better just to have it averaged out over the whole year, because we're focused on activity and a minimum amount of activity, right? So do that, and then you save it. And then ideally, you can track your progress based on the activity you enter on the dashboard in Sisu. So as you're tracking your appointments met, so you're tracking how many you've ever actually had versus what your goal is. Signed. Now, none of this shows up unless you track the info, and some of it you track when you record the calls, when you record the status, you record the meeting, all of that in Bold Trail. Others will be when you enter the buyer sign date in the transaction field in Sisu. So there are a couple of different steps that you have to do to make all the stuff track. But to get this denominator, you do that by putting your goals in, which we just did. And then you can track yourself throughout the year. Questions? Clear as mud?
Yeah, I need help with, I can't get to that bit without having done the Excel bit first, so I can't get there.
Well, for the Excel thing, I'll help you with it. Okay. Also, I'm recording this so you can go back and watch it as well. And that's for people who aren't able to make it on today either. So what I'm going to ask everybody to do is go in and do this before the end of the week. So you got 2 days. And then send me your Excel file so I can save it. And then, we can revisit throughout the year, and then you can also keep it to track yourself. Any questions outside of the questions we already know exist? No?
No.
Okay. Well, then let's wrap up really quickly so you guys can get back out there and start doing your stuff. So we've done that. It's just a little bit different from last year, but basically the same fields. Save your goals. Then you've got it month by month, like we talked about. Now, the whole point of this was to plan your work, right? So I know at minimum, like what my activity should be based on historical team averages, how many calls I need to be making on average to have how many conversations, to set how many appointments, to get how many agency agreements, to get to how many closings, right? So you have a pretty clear path of the minimum activity you need based on, 8 years of team data. All right. So it's not like we're just pulling these numbers out of the air. This is what people have historically used on the team over 8 years. Will you convert higher or lower? Probably. Yeah. And so you can tailor it to your own, right? Or don't, but use this as a minimum, and then you can adjust throughout the year if you aren't hitting your metrics, or maybe you're blowing your metrics away. And so you decide, you know what, I can increase my goal because my activity is really producing a lot of fruit, or my activity isn't producing a lot of fruit. Either I need to be more active because I'm not hitting my goals, or I am hitting my activity goals, but I'm not converting. So I need to get better at converting. Am I really doing a good job of providing value and having conversations with folks? So you can use your activity level, to do a self-assessment throughout the year as well. But your plan is more than just this activity, right? Of course, it's prospecting and follow up. Of course, you want to focus on your past clients and your SOI. But remember these things that we talked about outside of the database: events, drop-offs, mailings, being involved, engagement, providing value, getting outside of your comfort zone. I'm doing a fucking podcast, for God's sake. You think I like looking at myself? I don't. But you know what it's great for? Social media clips.
Mm.
And one thing I've been terrible about is making videos for social media. Well, you know what people look at more than your static posts? It's reels. So, I'm trying to put myself out there. I've been in this business 11 years. If I can still put myself out there, you can put yourself out there. Go do it. You know what I mean? Find a way to get outside your comfort zone. Find a way to get more out of your activity. Make sure you're putting in the bare minimum. And then if it's enough and you're happy with that, great. But if you're not achieving your goals and you're not doing the bare minimum, you're the one that's got to look at yourself in the mirror every day. That's your competition. Are you beating yourself? You're beating yourself one way or another. So figure out which one you want to win. Right? I thought this was good because people are successful in different ways, and there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? Some people are really disciplined, and that's why they get up and do things. They're very ABCD. So other people are very motivated. Like, I'm a scatterbrain, and I'm terrible at following a schedule. But you know what? I know what I want to accomplish, and I'm going to do it come hell or high water. My encouragement to you is, if you're not a mix of these, at least pick one. Either get disciplined or get motivated. But the best way to be successful is to do both. Get up and challenge yourself. Get out of bed and get to work. Yeah, maybe you don't want to make prospecting calls until noon. What are you doing with the first 3 or 4 hours of the day? You just waiting until lunchtime to call people and drinking your coffee? I mean, come on. You're wasting half the day. Send a text. Set up an event. Volunteer for something where you can hand out business cards. Do something. Make some flyers and go canvass a neighborhood. Do an open house, for God's sake, to Brandon's point. You can still work at the open house if nobody shows up. Now you got some weekend prospecting done. Make the most of your day. What's your goal? Share your goal and commit to it. Brandon, what's your goal for this year?
You may still be out.
No, has my camera not been working? I've had the camera on, but I was muted. My goal is going to be 30 again. I want to hit the goal. 2026. I should do it. I should have hit it this year. I didn't. That's not the end of the world, but I'm going to hit it in 26.
I love it. Dude's been in the business for what, 7 years now? 8 years? Still motivated, still challenging himself. My goal is 24. I'm surprised I got to 29 this year. What's really weird is if the closings hold and Brandon was right about his referral, this will be the first time I've led the team in transactions in the history of the company. In the history of the company, this will be the first year that I've had the most transactions on the team. So hopefully you guys don't just think I'm preaching to you. I'm out there fucking working too. Janine, what's your goal?
Same, 24.
Love it.
No excuses.
Play like a champion. Rule
Got another driver on my hands.
better. Yeah, that's a hell of a motivator, right? Ellen, are you there? All right, we'll come back to Ellen. Josh, what's your goal?
I put 18.
Solid. Definitely doable with what you put in this year. Keep it up.
Thanks.
Mark, what's your goal?
I'm more modest. I'm saying 15. I hope to get beyond that, but that's my goal.
It's okay to set realistic goals. That would be great for you to hit. I think you can do it. I believe in you. Got to ramp up the activity. April.
I'm thinking mine are, I'm in between 16 and 18.
It's a good range. You can do that. All the work you're putting in up front to be visible, keep it up. Don't let up. Make sure you're asking for the business. It's not enough just to have events, though, and be around people.
Right.
Business.
Yep.
Ellen's back. We'll go to you.
Yeah, sorry about that. I stepped away for a second. Well, I might use the same method I used this year. So I think my goal this year was 10 and I got to 23. So I'm going to say 10. It's a magic number for me.
No sandbagging.
No sandbagging. At least
No
not that much.
sandbagging.
No, I
Come
think my life is going to look a little bit different. It better look different, right? But yeah, I think no, I'll do 18.
I think that's realistic.
Yeah.
Even if you scale back a little bit, like you said, look where you ended up this year. And
Yeah.
where I'm incredibly optimistic that next year is going to be better for everybody just because of circumstances. So that's a solid number. All right, Connor, next to you.
I just left mine the same at 24.
I love it. Keeping after it, keeping those goals high. You can do it. Just make sure you're doing the extra stuff. Ashley.
I'm gonna go with 15.
Solid. I love it. That would be great. I mean, you had a great year and you had a couple of things going on. So you can do it. I believe it.
No big deal. She just had a baby.
Yeah. No biggie. Thank you, everybody. Write it down, take a picture, fill out your Excel sheet and send it to me. We can sidebar when and if you need help getting all this stuff in the system and in the sheet. No worries about that. Just let me know. But remember your goal, remember your why, right? Please don't just set a number for a number. Set it because what getting that number will do for you and your family. That's what this is about. It's not a number just to say, hey, we went through the exercise. It's a number to set your production goals, but also to set your activity goals to give you a realistic work plan. So you know what you need to be doing on a day-to-day basis to get where you said you want to be. Remember, I didn't give you these goals. Well, except we had to get Ellen up because she tried to sandbag on us, and that's okay. But you know what I mean? These are your goals for your specific reasons. And if you guys all hit those goals, you'll have a great year. And I think everybody can do it. But what I can't be there is to be there every day and help remind you to do all those things we just talked about. So that's where you got to get up and outperform your mirror image every day. Okay. So commit to doing it. We're at the end of the year. Next couple of weeks is a good time maybe to slip in a CE class or two while it's a little slow. I know it's not great to do, but you got to do it regardless. And you sure as shit don't want to do it in May or June because hopefully we're all really busy then. So I would say definitely, if you don't get one in before the end of the year, try to get them both in before the end of February, because I'm hoping, things are really going to ramp up next year. Remember, the site is on the website. You can link to it and use the code to get 30% off. 30% ain't a bad thing to have. It's up to you to follow through. It was character that got us out of bed, commitment that moved us into action, and the discipline that enabled us to follow through. It's great to set goals. It's great to talk about how, if all this stuff happens, how great it will be. But you know what's greater? When it happens. And where the rubber meets the road is where the success comes in. So these are your goals. These are your dreams. This is your plan. Hopefully we give you most of the tools to make it all happen. But the biggest tool is you.
You call me a tool?
I sure did. So make sure you're making the most use out of the tool that is yourself, right? To get you where you said you want to be. And I'm here to help you however I can, right? That's it. That's all I got. Questions, thoughts, comments?
No, it's good. I liked it. I'm glad for the motivation and push.
And look, I hate rah-rah shit. I hate when I go to a conference and they walk in there and they're like, good morning. And then the crowd's like, good morning. And they're like, no, good morning. And then nothing pisses me off more. That just sucks. That rah-rah stuff is so fake. What's not fake is how this impacts your day-to-day life and your kids and your family. So make sure you approach it with that seriousness and that attitude every single day. And trust me, I'm not saying it's easy, because I don't every single day. But more days than not, right? You've got your plan. You know what your minimum should be. Go do the minimum. And if the minimum's not enough, then get better at doing the minimum, right? And we can talk about that. But it starts with doing the minimum. And then we figure out what we got to improve on beyond that, right? It's fun to do this with you guys. I appreciate you being on board with it. It's a week from Christmas. Wild. I'm sure y'all still got shopping and wrapping and all those things to do. So go get after it. We won't meet until the new year. All of the masterminds should be cleared off the calendar. So if not, just know that we're not doing anything until next year. We probably will meet at the coast that first full week of January. That's on our calendar. That Tuesday, I believe it's the 7th. So plan for that. Triangle team will probably meet that Friday, because it's been a little bit since we met as well. So just keep an eye on those things on your calendar. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. We're going to be traveling some. I will have my phone with me. I do ask for a little bit of grace if I'm a little slow in responding, but it's not because it's not intentional. It's just because I don't see it. If I see it, I will respond immediately. And of course, you've got the group for backup. Okay.
Thanks, Doug.
All right, guys.
Hey, Doug, I'm going to give you a call real quick. I've got a call with a lead source, and I have a couple questions that I need answered.
Yep, I'm right here. Just call me when you get.
Actually,
I'm about to jump in the car. Let me get in the car if that's okay.
You're going to call me once you get settled?
Like 5 or 10 minutes.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, everybody. I'll send it out once we're done. Once it's done processing.
See y'all.
Bye.
Bye.